Welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, powered by FC Cincinnati supporters. Get in touch, soccer fans. Email us at cincysoccertalk@spnt.tv.
Hey, what's happening, Cincinnati Soccer Talkers? Welcome to the latest and greatest edition of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I am your host, Nick Sterling. Pleased to be with you on this fantastic Monday evening. Coming up here in just a few moments, we're going to be joined by the Cincinnati Enquirer's Pat Brennan to get his thoughts on last week's MLS expansion presentations. He was there on the ground there in New York City, so we'll get his thoughts on what happened and what all went down with FC Cincinnati there at the New York offices of MLS. Plus, we'll talk a little bit more about the USL meetings that also occurred last week simultaneously as the MLS presentations or the expansion presentations. And, of course, last but not least, again, can't go a week without talking about expansion. We'll talk even more expansion for FC Cincinnati. Of course, if you want to get in touch with us, you can always email us, feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. You can also get in touch with us via Twitter at Cincy Soccer Talk. So let's welcome in my tag team partners for this week's episode of the show. I'll start first and foremost with Boston Brazell. Boston, how are you, my friend?
Hey, good, Lucky Sixes. I had a blast hanging out with you this weekend. For all you listeners out there, this podcast is made up of a group of semi-responsible people. Like, these are guys you would let watch your dog until you found out they ate all your cookie dough. Or, I mean, there's still guys the government trusts to have their own children. But and then there's me. No soccer, no kids. Just OTR, and I shouldn't be allowed near fire trucks, but I got these guys out till 1 a.m., and I'm very proud of it.
Some of us survived. It was good seeing you as well this weekend at our first annual Christmas party. Boston's, it was funny because I would see him for 5 minutes at the casino and then he'd be gone. And we were like, where did he go? And then we would find him and then he'd be gone. We'd be like, where the heck did he go? He was all over the place. So, but yeah, it was a good time. Lots of Santas.
I've been known to wander.
Lots of Santas this weekend too for kind of cramped our CST style this weekend down and over the Rhine.
Yep. Note to self: next year Christmas party, don't have it in the middle of SantaCon.
Yeah, we learned our lesson on that. But it was good seeing you this week in Boston. Of course, looking forward to getting your take tonight. Let's also welcome back. Man, it's been a while. I can't remember the last time this gentleman was on our show. Let's welcome in Ben Knapp to the show. Ben, what's going on, buddy?
Well, not much. I think the last time I was on, I was making incredibly bold predictions that FC Cincinnati would finish the season out with 3 straight wins. So if that says anything. No, good to be back. I'm happy to be back and happy to continue to make apparent, according to you guys, bold and outlandish predictions for the upcoming season.
Yeah, that was... I don't even know what the word is for what happened there at the end of the season. I think we were all kind of scratching our heads on what went down for FC Cincinnati at the end of the year. But I see you're proudly displaying the Manchester United scarf behind you. I'm surprised. Now, I'm doing it because I really just didn't feel like moving the flag behind me. But that was kind of rough over the weekend.
Well, they lost, to City, which you never want to lose to City. It's tough when you lose to a fake team every year. But today was the draw, so I got to stand behind my boys. I got a great draw for the Champions League, so we still got a chance to go after Pep in that one. So I'll keep it hanging.
It could be worse. We could be Chelsea. So there's that.
Don't say that out loud.
Well, glad to have you back, Ben, and of course, last but not least, the Wolfman joining us here on CST. Bill, what's going on, buddy?
I believe that we will win the bid.
Wow.
Positive.
All right.
Positive. Going to happen.
Good. I like the positivity, Bill. I'm glad to have you back this week. We are going to be talking about that quite a bit here in a few minutes with the Cincinnati Enquirer's Pat Brennan. So you won't want to miss that here in just a few moments. But before we move on and we get into the meat of tonight's show, we have one business item to take care of.
Captains.
Hey, we've got an episode captain this week. Let's give it up for Teresa Everidge. Teresa, thank you so much for wearing the armband this week. We appreciate you supporting us here at Cincinnati Soccer Talks. You, Teresa, are our episode captain. She's wearing the armband proudly for us tonight. So if you want to be an episode captain of Cincinnati Soccer Talk, log on to cincinnatisoccertalk.com/support. All right. As we wait for Pat Brennan of the Cincinnati Enquirer, should we discuss what happened over the weekend with MLS Cup? I mean, might as well, because we're going to be soon be covering an MLS team here, right? Here real soon. I mean, that's at least what Bill thinks. So, MLS Cup over the weekend. I don't know if you gentlemen had a chance to watch it. Oh, Bill knows it, so he's ready. It was a good game. Toronto wins 2-0 over Seattle FC, or the Seattle Sounders FC, I should say. We got to give props to Cincinnati's own Nick Haglund, who is a member of Toronto FC, winning MLS Cup over the weekend from Westchester. So that's pretty cool. We've got a Cincinnatian win an MLS Cup over the weekend, and it was a really good game as well.
Yeah, and the team that shot on goal actually won.
Yeah, that honestly, the 2-0 score, it should have been worse. I mean, they were peppering Sebastian Fry in the first half of Seattle's goal. I mean, I don't know. If it wasn't for Fry, we're looking at probably a 4 or 5-0 scoreline.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Seattle got the best of them last year. Same exact game, Seattle versus Toronto last year. And Seattle came away with the win. And I almost thought after halftime Seattle would do it again, just because their keeper is that good. But finally, Toronto broke through. It was something crazy. Like, they had 20 shots in the first half, Toronto did, and 0 in the net. And you guess Seattle couldn't hold them off forever.
Yeah, that was. I mean, Fry's an incredible goalkeeper. When it comes to postseason, when you want a goalkeeper to stand on his head. I mean, last year, because you should, in all honesty, Toronto should be the back-to-back champions. But Fry single-handed, that save he made in last year's final, I thought he was going to do it again. I thought he was going to put this team on his back, carry him into PKs or something, and we were going to have another back-to-back champion. But happy to see Toronto get it. I love their team, and I think they're a team that really makes MLS look good. Especially with that talent. So again, happy for Nick. Xavier product, Westchester product. So big time support of that Toronto win.
And they've been an MLS franchise for a very short amount of time. I mean, this is a team that, wasn't that long ago that they were new to MLS. Recently, we're talking at least within the last 10 or 11 years. And this is also a team that for a long time in Major League Soccer, they were a laughingstock. I mean, they were, at the bottom of the standings perennially. And then they made the change of management. They upgraded the stadium. They brought in some significant talent in Josie Altidore and Michael Bradley. And boom, all of a sudden now here they are. They are the greatest team in Major League Soccer history. I mean, they set a record for points accumulated this year. And they capped it off with a big win over the weekend over the Seattle Sounders. So, I mean, this, for folks who are excited about Cincinnati getting into the league, just think, I mean, if everything is done correctly, which we think it will, there's the chance that this success could happen soon for FC Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things where, we were looking at earlier today, like the MLS expansion draft, and there's guys that are available. So there's so much talent out right now that you can build a team quickly that can be a very competitive team just with the sheer amount of talent that is in the U.S. and in the MLS right now. It's not going to be difficult. I don't think the next couple winners are going to be people who've been in the league for 15 years. You're going to see a lot of the expansion teams start to really make a turn.
Yeah, and with the new money announcements coming from the MLS office as far as TAM money, it's going to be a league that you can start buying some players and doing some things with that you couldn't do in previously. We saw it with Atlanta this year, even coming right out of the gate, being expansion guys and making it in the playoffs and giving it a good run. That's kind of, it hasn't happened in a while. Teams, so SEC has a chance, if we get in, to do the same thing.
I just keep hearing you guys saying "if." I don't understand this word.
Bill, some of us are on pins and needles. I love your confidence, though.
I'm just ready for the party.
Man, you seem so confident, Bill. It's like, do you know something that we don't?
No, I don't. I do not. But it would be nice to. But no, it's just I don't honestly I don't see how anybody has earned the spot more than us at this point. So
that's fair. I mean, you look at the 4 candidates overall. You can make the case that FC Cincinnati has done more on the field right now than all 3 of those cities combined. I mean, don't get me wrong, Sacramento's got the longevity. They've been doing it for longer than FC Cincinnati have, but from a ticket sales standpoint, they were the gold standard, Sacramento was, until FC Cincinnati came along. So, Detroit, we know everything that's been going on with Detroit. They've had a soccer team there in town, and they're, I don't know, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I always felt like Detroit City FC fans were anti-MLS, but now here you've got...
They still are.
Oh,
still
are they? Oh, okay. So,
yeah.
Yep.
I mean...
their bid is unrelated to them.
Yeah. So, speaking of bids, we're excited to have the one and only Pat Brennan joining us now on the King's Hammer Hotline to discuss last week's Major League Soccer expansion presentations. He joins us now on the phone. Pat, welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, friend. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you guys doing tonight?
We are doing fantastic. We are so glad you're with us. You were the man there on the scene.
I'm glad to be here.
You were the man on the scene. You had your feet on the ground there at Ground Zero in New York City, where everything is happening as far as Major League Soccer expansion goes. Talk about everything and talk about the day. How did it start for you? Because it felt like, for me personally, watching it on social media and everything else that was happening, it felt like the longest day ever, and you had to be there and actually cover it. So, did it start right away from the get-go in the morning?
Yeah, so it was like a slow-motion train wreck, right? Yeah. Watching the caffeine slowly leave my system, and then, simultaneously you could see the crash happening via social media with typos and whatnot. But, yeah, it was a one-day trip there and back in about 21 hours. I was out the door at 4 a.m., and I had boots on the ground, as you said, in Midtown Manhattan. By 8:30, I was at MLS headquarters, and by that point, Nick, Nashville had already started their presentation, so the day was well underway for all the major players involved. The only media that weren't in the house at that point yet were one of the Detroit newspapers, and that gentleman arrived shortly thereafter. And things got off to a little bit of a slow start. Nashville only wanted to meet with local media, which I just found interesting. I don't know if it was good or bad. I thought the opportunity that the day presented was one in which you could sell not only to MLS, but sell for these organizations. They could sell themselves to the other media markets, because you had major media outlets from all 4 finalist cities present. So I guess I thought it was weird that Nashville wouldn't want to take advantage of that, but their prerogative. No harm done in the end, because US, the Enquirer and the Tennessean are part of the same network, so we picked up their coverage that they, their interviews that they were on the scene to gather as well. And Sacramento was the second team to. Oh, yeah, I think that's right. Am I getting my cities mixed up? No, Sacramento was the second to present. There, and stop me if I'm boring you guys at any point, but Sacramento's ownership group came out along with the current mayor of Sacramento. The former mayor of Sacramento was also there too. Sacramento's media gaggle was interesting, I thought, because now keep in mind, everyone, all four of these groups playing it so close to the chest, not letting on anything of substance, from what I could tell, except for Sacramento, who, and again, this might have been a dipsy-do intended to throw people off. Who, God knows what kind of mind games were going on in that media room on Wednesday. But they, at least at the time, and if you take what they said at face value, it certainly seemed like Sacramento had some work to do. They said they came away from the meeting with a little bit of a to-do list still. And then, I just thought the development with them adding Meg Whitman, the Hewlett-Packard CEO, to their ownership group the morning of was really strange.
Yeah.
There's this idea that Sacramento Republic is getting in. I think and you guys tell me if I'm off base on that, but my sense is a lot of people, I won't say most, but a lot of people think they're getting in. And that's really just rooted in kind of, at least nationally, not really picking at the Sacramento bid and not really probing it. And it's almost like people give them the nod over other expansion cities out of deference to the fact that, they've been at it longer,
sure,
therefore it's theirs, let them have it. But that's not, there's every chance they might get in. That is definitely not one of the reasons they're going to get in, if that comes to pass, the fact that they've been at it longer than anyone else. And because of the fact that they've been at it longer than anyone else, yeah.
Hey, Pat, this is Bill. So speaking of Sacramento, I know I was following you on Twitter, obviously, because you were there. And you struck up a nice conversation, I think, with the other media outlets, where everybody was kind of talking to each other about who they thought was going to get in. And this follows your point exactly, which is you said everybody there unanimously agreed Sacramento, and then I think you even kind of quoted it, should get the bid. So I mean, there's definitely that feeling, which is interesting. Do you think anybody changed their opinion after the media presentation, after their presentation?
I mean, I certainly had questions, Bill. And just because, again, the finish there was that, if you've been at it longer than anyone else, why are you adding a major piece to your ownership group the day of?
Right.
And to me, that's either like the biggest, that could go down as the biggest power play in American soccer history. Years from now, we'll look back on it and say that, or it could be a move of desperation, or it could be none of the above, or something in between. I don't know. All I know is that I found it curious, and they did. The group from Sacramento did admit that it sounded like they had some work to do. Yeah, the four reporters there. I'm sorry. There were 5 newspaper reporters there. 4 of them were for Gannett, USA Today papers like the Enquirers, and but the 5 of us, as a kind of a little gaggle of newspaper guys, we all thought it was Sacramento, and then the general feeling from the majority of the group was Nashville. I think everyone knows how I feel about that second spot at this point, but generally people thought Nashville was the second team in there, to Bill's point.
And then pretty much everybody agreed Detroit was not really.
Yeah, we all. That's only because of the stadium situation. Now, I got to tell you, their entire ownership group was there. Dan Gilbert, Arn Tellem from the Detroit Pistons, and everyone else. And there's a certain gravitas that group commands when they walk into a room. So, and I've been on record of saying this, if not in the newspaper, then certainly on radio and TV. But I always felt like because they were really defying, not in a malicious way, but for lack of a better word, defying the soccer-specific stadium aspect of the bidding process. I think they were included as a finalist out of respect for the people in that group, as a nod to the fact that MLS does want to do business with them, and as a sign that maybe they intend to do business with them eventually. But I just don't see that happening this time for this round of expansion, and we were unanimous on that point. As strong as the group was that Sacramento would be the first team in, the group of reporters, I mean, we were even stronger that Detroit was probably not a serious contender this time around. But we could all be proven wrong come Thursday or whenever they release the result of this Board of Governors vote.
Hey, Pat. So I know as fans, we read into every word anyone ever says. I know right after that meeting, Don Garber gets with the next day for the state of the MLS, gets on there. He talks about Cincinnati and what a great market it is. Actually compares it to Columbus Crew a little bit. And then
which could be a terrible sign if you're reading it certain ways. But go on.
Yeah, there was a whole thread about how do we take this, but
it could be the kiss of death.
Just to go over the other bit, though, he kind of just skips over Sacramento. He actually brings up Detroit and says, hey, you know what? They've actually presented a cozy stadium plan that we think is Atlanta-like, if not a little bit cozier.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And then talks about Nashville. So how much do you put into those kind of statements?
Again, I think there's a lot of posturing going on right now, so it's. I've been trying to take things at face value. So, I mean, taking that at face value, it's significant, right? And I certainly think there is merit to what Garber said because, unlike Atlanta, the Mercedes-Benz Dome or whatever the heck it's called, which is slightly asymmetrical. I mean, certainly that one end zone is kind of tiered in the back row going down. So it's an asymmetrically built seating bowl, whereas Ford Field is very symmetrical, much like a lot of soccer-style arenas that are being built in this country right now, and certainly like a lot of the great ones in Europe. So, and I think it's really not hard to follow the Atlanta, Vancouver plan of taking a massive American or Canadian football stadium and turning that into a more intimate venue. Essentially what all Atlanta does for the matches where it's not opening up the upper bowl is it drops some drapes down and it darkens that top bowl and obviously doesn't sell tickets for those areas. And all of a sudden you've got yourself a smaller, more contained environment. And, now suddenly looks and feels kind of like, I mean, no one's going to mistake it for, Kansas City and, the great arena, the great soccer, these names are escaping me now, but the great place they have down in Houston. No one's going to mistake it for that kind of intimacy. But there's definitely a tried and true playbook, so to speak, for how to cut these massive football stadiums down to size and make them into intimate settings. So by that standard, I mean, Detroit definitely in play. I think Cincinnati's got them beat along with Sacramento in numerous other very significant areas. But if we're going to put all this emphasis on the stadium piece of this bid, which has been the spirit of this thing all along, then, you take those Garber comments and you take them as pretty significant to the overall dialogue here.
Yeah, that was honestly my next question was, you've got the MLS saying everyone needs a soccer specific stadium from here on out. We're done with the situation at Yankee Stadium. We can't get the Revolution out of we're stuck in Foxborough and we need to try to get into Boston. If you let Detroit in, with Ford Field,
don't hold your breath on Foxborough. What's that? All right.
Yeah. If you let Ford Field in with this round of expansion, do you tell all the future rounds of expansion, hey, yeah, okay, if you live in an NFL city, then you have 3 billionaires, we'll let you in. Is it a bad precedent?
Right. Yeah, I mean, right now it certainly looks like, letting Detroit in with an NFL venue is the final bid proposal, or the final stadium proposal for their bid, when they explicitly told FC Cincinnati and elected officials in Hamilton County that Paul Brown Stadium did not suffice. There's a little bit of a double standard there. Now,
face.
as I've noted, what's that?
I said that'd be a slap in the face, I think, to Cincinnati.
I would agree with you there. Because Cincinnati has gone out of its way to meet every requirement. And if MLS had stipulated, like, hey, we'll take we would give serious consideration to maybe a slightly renovated Paul Brown Stadium, or, you can be made a finalist with Paul Brown Stadium, then, if I were FC Cincinnati and if I were an FC Cincinnati fan, I would feel pretty played by the whole process. Now, the flip side of that is, keep in mind, Jeff Birding said at Cincinnati City Hall that while they have submitted Oakley as their final stadium for the bid, that could change if they find that Oakley isn't a workable solution. I think the same rules would then apply to Detroit, where they can submit, it's almost just get MLS something, get them anything, and you can change it later if you need to. They do have years to get a soccer-specific thing lined up, and I think there's obviously a well-known track record of playing in gigantic stadiums, college football, NFL, otherwise, as holdover venues while soccer-specific venues are being built. So, those same rules that FC Cincinnati could use to potentially wind up in a different neighborhood with their stadium, I would think those would have to apply for Detroit as well. So, certainly the fact that they were made a finalist with an NFL stadium, that's got to be. I'm sure that's already frustrating for a lot of people here in Cincinnati. Not that anyone on this show or too many fans that sit in the Bailey wanted to watch soccer in Paul Brown Stadium. I know that wasn't the case.
No, I certainly was not looking for it. I would love for this club to stay as far away from the Bengal juice as possible, because we've got enough problems down at Paul Brown Stadium there, Pat. Well, let's talk a little bit. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the state of the union, so to speak, that Don Garber had last week. I feel like his comments about Miami, I'm starting to wonder what the heck is going on down there, and why, you've got these 4 cities that are desperate. Maybe desperate's not the right word,
90 days.
but they want,
pretty close to desperate, but go on.
Yeah, they are putting everything together here. They're making the strongest effort to get into this league, and yet Miami, I know there's a lot. I know there's a lot involved down there. The politics are crazy.
Yeah.
Trying to find a stadium situation down there it's just been a nightmare for David Beckham and company. What are your thoughts on? And this likely will not happen. But what are the chances they take 3 teams in this round of expansion and say, we've waited long enough for Miami. We've got to move on.
Yeah, I've heard that whispered about the possibility of MLS taking 3 teams, and I don't think anything's off the table, guys. To be quite honest with you, there was an MLS spokesman that on the record. Well, obviously it's on the record because I'm telling it to you guys and your audience, but an MLS spokesman said, the Board of Governors are not going to, this is a very important business transaction for both sides, on all sides, and they're not going to let teams in that aren't ready, that are, the MLS doesn't want to be set up for failure, and certainly smart businessmen in Sacramento, Cincinnati, Nashville, and Detroit don't want to set themselves up for failure either, because there's a lot of money at stake. So I heard on Wednesday they could, in theory, just like taking 3 teams is something that could happen in theory. In theory, 1 team could get in over the next 10 days. But I don't, it was interesting that he threw that out. Again, the posturing,
sure,
the double entendres, the dog whistles. I'm sure there were people that were smacking their lips when they heard that. And I know that there are some people that thought a lot of that particular statement reside right here in Cincinnati. I mean, if the proposition is, because here's the key thing, Nick. What the key piece of that proposition is, you're coming in 2019. So
yeah.
Conceivably, this has to be a team that is already functioning operationally at an MLS level. Well, then it becomes a very simple process of elimination, and you can quickly deduce that FC Cincinnati is literally the only team capable of coming online in 2019. Sacramento doesn't have the stadium. Detroit has nothing. I don't think they'd be able. I don't think even 3 billionaires could slap together a proper team and a proper fan experience in that amount of time. And Nashville, again, probably that's too quick of a turnaround for them. So FC Cincinnati has police at Nippert. Don Garber has seen a match at Nippert. U.S. Soccer has successfully staged a match there. They know Nippert will work. They know it's not a perfect solution, but they know it would work. And when Don Garber dangled that out there, that was definitely noticeable from an FC Cincinnati perspective, because everyone should know. When I talk positively about FC Cincinnati getting in guys, whether it's 2019 or 2020, people like the stuff on social media, and it's cool. Everyone knows me, and everyone knows I like to talk things out on social media, and I love the interaction. Everyone should keep it coming. But I'm not just saying that stuff to get likes and retweets. This should all be fairly self-evident to all of us at this point. FC Cincinnati is MLS ready. That's not happy talk. They are MLS ready. They've proven that. They can compete at that level. And if it came down to needing to let one team in a year early, one of these 4 finalists in a year early, to take the place of Miami, not just take the place of Miami, guys, but keep in mind, they've been adding one team annually over a steady number of years now. So you want to keep that pace rolling. And LAFC comes on next year. You don't want to have it. You don't want to stagnate as your league is expanding for any period of time. So it almost becomes, for me, less about Miami and more about just keeping that positive expansion momentum going. And FC Cincinnati is just, it's pretty self-evident to me. They would be the team in that scenario.
Well, I mean, of course, we're going to agree with you on that statement, Pat. Hopefully, hopefully next week, this city, this town, and this team is a Major League Soccer team. We'll find out here very, very soon. Folks, if you're listening, make sure you go check out Pat's stuff at the Enquirer. He does a tremendous job covering not just FC Cincinnati, but does a really good job on the Xavier beat as well. Pat, we appreciate you spending some minutes with us here this evening, and happy holidays to you and your family, buddy.
Hey, same to you guys. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy New Year.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Talk to you again.
That's Pat Brennan joining us here on the King's Hammer Hotline, talking a little Major League Soccer expansion. He was down at the meetings last week, and good to get his thoughts on what's going down with FC Cincinnati and expansion. So, again, we'd love to hear your feedback. Get in touch with us, feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. You can also tweet us at Cincy Soccer Talk. So, what did you guys make of what Pat had to say there? I don't think anything kind of really surprised us. We kind of had a feeling, based on his reporting and based on the things he tweeted out last week, that was what we kind of expected, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think, Pat's been on top of this, so it's not like there was anything new for us as far as what got said. Maybe some people don't follow him that follow us, so that's good for them to catch up. But yeah, this is pretty much what we're all expecting. It all comes down to, who those two teams are, and some of us know and some of us don't. And anyway, but I think it's I think the most interesting thing for me was really it just came down to that comment about 2019. And again, for somebody like me who is drinking the Kool-Aid and in a very positive mood right now, to me that really leans towards FCC again. So, why are they making comments like that if they're not thinking about Cincinnati?
Yeah, I think that the reason you want Miami, honestly, is a TV contract, and your TV contract is 2023, I believe. Well, there is plenty of time if you need Beckham and you need Miami to get in the league. They can get their crap together down there, sort it out, find your primary owner, bring them in 2021, 2022, and you still have time for that big TV Miami market Garber wants so bad. And you can let 3, 4, even 5 expansion teams in that time period. But before you ever get there. And so, I mean, there's plenty of time for the MLS. There's no reason to wait on Miami and hold that spot for them when there's plenty of room.
Yeah, I think after what Pat just said, I think I'm not going to jump both feet in, but I think I'm following more into the Bill camp. I think I'd feel a little bit more confident. I don't have to necessarily say if anymore.
I'm infectious,
but I think that's just it. I think with LA coming in alone, what Pat just said, we're not even thinking about. There's a shot that they could just go, we're letting one expansion team in this time. We could let one expansion team in next time because the other clubs that they're looking at, Sacramento, they said they don't have all their ducks in a row. You have Nashville and Detroit who are don't really have the actual teams that they would be putting up there into the league. So, and I don't want to say that FC Cincinnati is setting, the absolute perfect bar that if you can't do this, then what do you can't get in. But we took what Sacramento did. We grew upon it. I think it's maybe something they brought Nashville and Detroit in to go, look, this is what you need to do. You look, you sound, you talk, and act like this, and you're going to be in. And, again, at the State of the Union, Don Garber, made us sound really good, when you get that shout out and we're not even in the league yet. So no, I'm feeling good, especially after talking to Pat now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say the other thing is I really don't think the 3 teams is practical. I know everybody likes the idea because then there isn't like a loser, because I think everybody kind of already assumes Detroit is out. So it's really about who doesn't get in of the other 3. And if you pick 3, then nobody loses. And that's a nice, happy ending to the story. But the reality is that everyone expects the franchise fee to go up after these 2 teams. And right now, the number that's kind of being thrown around is $200 million. So if you don't make the first round, you need an extra $50 million to get in. And if they take 3 teams, they're giving up $50 million to take a 3rd team. So that's something every MLS owner is going to be very aware of is, hey, we could take 3, but we lose $50 million. That's a lot of money.
That's a good point. Didn't think of it that way. And of course, we always should think of it when think of it coming down to money. I mean, that's really what this is all about. If you think about it.
Absolutely.
So that's a good point, Bill. I'm glad you brought that up. Again, we appreciate Pat joining us here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. There was one player announcement since we last joined you, and I know our own Brian Weigel was very excited about this signing, as for, I would assume, the rest of us. Joining us from the San Francisco Deltas, the former San Francisco Deltas, Tommy Heineman has joined FC Cincinnati as a forward. This is a big-time get, guys, and I know Brian Weigel on his board, he was big on Heineman, and now he's in the orange and blue. How excited are you for this signing, Boston?
I'm very excited. this is a player I feel like Cincinnati's been missing, like this type of player for 2 years. We've had the big forwards. We've had a fancy forward in the box and a Coley, but this is a guy that brings an outside threat to the net. We've never had opposing teams respect our attacking game, both inside and outside the net. And Tommy's a guy who can shoot from range. He's also a little bit more athletic than a GB, but just as built. But I'm honestly the most excited about defenders thinking in the back of their mind, oh crap, we can't just all go down there and stop Jimmy McLaughlin or whoever else. We have to worry about the ball being kicked out to this guy, and he can shoot. And watch this guy's replay video or his highlights. He's got some amazing shots from outside.
I remember watching him with the Crew. I mean, it's he's obviously not a young guy, which is maybe a little bit of a concern. But back in the heyday of the Crew with Robbie Rogers and Eddie Gavin and Duca and was it Scalato and Marino, he was like the guy they brought in the last 15 minutes who just terrorized the back line because they were tired. And he was huge and he was fast and he could shoot. He was a lot of fun to watch.
I think there's one little part about him that gets me a little bit more excited. We talked about all the things that he can do, but he's been a bit of a journeyman. I mean, he's a guy who comes around, plays for a couple years for a team, and kind of moves on. And I don't think he's going to get phased by a whole lot. Coming into to FC Cincinnati and then playing in Nippert and playing in front of those fans. I mean, yeah, is it a great imposing atmosphere for the opposition? Sure, but we're screaming and shouting for all 22 guys on the pitch. So, a guy who's been in there, he's been around, he's not going to get phased, by the loud noise and playing in front of a small crowd or a large crowd at Nippert and I think he's just going to be, the leader of men, that one guy that can just, shake you and listen, this is what we're doing and you're going to follow him. So, he's big, he's tough, he can score goals, and I think he's just not going to get phased. And I think that's, when Boston said it's a guy we've never had before, we've had types of this guy before, but nothing that's going to be a complete package and kind of just be able to lead this team, and get you that gritty goal in the 94th minute. So, no, I'm really excited about this guy coming in.
And I think too, and you can answer this question, Boston. We've seen already in the 2 short years of FC Cincinnati, we've seen 2 different types of forwards. And now here we are in year 3, and he's really kind of different than the other 2 we've already had. And you kind of mentioned it already, but what are folks who aren't familiar with Tommy Heineman? What can they expect as far as the style of forward play? Because with Lecoli, we had a guy who was going to hold it up. He was going to be that fox in the box. Last year, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember our forward really drawing very many penalties, and we saw that happen quite a bit with Lecoli in our first year. Is Heineman an aerial threat on corner kicks like we saw last year with GB, the service end of the box? Mm-hmm. Or is this more of an all-around type forward player?
No, he's definitely a little bit more of an all-around than we've experienced. He definitely is a big guy, has the ability to head balls in. He can shoot from outside, as I previously mentioned, and he's also able to get into the box I saw him even hit some of the little tap-ins. Very smart player, and make sure he runs to the net even after another teammate shoots. So he's got a little bit of that threat, and I'm very interested in seeing. I hope Allen uses him in a way that opens up the field for our other forwards. We need to get away from this one forward system that's going to solve all our problems. He's not that guy. He's a guy that's going to work well with other forwards, and so if we play that way, we'll be successful. But I only have one concern. He is a club killer. He played for the Ottawa Fury. Boom, they fold. Plays for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Boom, they're out of the NASL. Plays for the Deltas. Fold. Now he's with us. Will he be the player that sends us to the MLS and kill our USL franchise?
Oh, but he played for the Crew too. So what are you saying?
Well, technically, if we get into MLS, that's a good thing.
Played for the Carolina Railhawks. Who are those guys?
Oh man, that's funny, Boston. Well, we're excited to have Heineman on board. As I mentioned, there are a lot of us here on the Cincinnati Soccer Talk staff when that was announced. We all were pretty excited about the signing. So we're looking forward to Tommy scoring loads of goals for FC Cincinnati this summer. It was also announced over the past week that there was a departure. We knew Pat McMahon wasn't going to be back here at FC Cincinnati, but he signed for that team down south. Man. So Pat McMahon going to Louisville, guys. Your thoughts on I can't say really one of our own, but he was, in year one of FC Cincinnati, he played a ton of minutes. Last year, not so much, and then now he joins Louisville. Now, we saw what happened last year when Louisville poached two of our players. Spencer went down there and did a great job. So are we concerned about Pat McMahon going down to Louisville and defending up that right side?
I guess I am a little bit more than anybody else was when we were talking about it. Mainly because, again, say what you will, JOC typically knows what he's doing with his limited budget, and he's not going to bring a guy in he doesn't have a plan for. Obviously, he's going to want to do something just to show, hey, you guys, are missing out on it. Plus, I think my sister has a shirt with his face on it, so he's got to have. There's something still in the tank there. I think they might be able to figure out a way to utilize him. I don't think it's going to be anything like what Spencer could do, just as far as game-changing ability. But I think he'll play a role, and I think he'll be a good little player. I don't think he fit with FCC anymore, but I still think he's got something left.
And let's also remember too, this guy is a USL winner. Now I know this is back when USL was Division III, but he won a championship with the Rochester Rhinos before coming to FC Cincinnati, guys. So you have that look, Boston, like, ugh.
I just disagree with everything, Ben. Just it's
I knew you would.
I like Pat McMahon. In fact, he was great here as far as community outreach, and they sent him so many places since he wasn't on the field. But he's an older player, and he will do better than he did in Cincinnati because Louisville has a small pitch. He's not going to be a running forward type of defender. I think James O'Connor, if he plays him, is going to put him in that back center role just to kind of hold it down. I think that's a huge mistake. I don't know if James O'Connor really knows what he got here. I think I'm calling this James's first mistake in his fourth year of coaching.
I'm going to slide in the middle somewhere. I'm going to say that I don't think this is a big mistake. I think Pat's a quality player. He doesn't fit our style. He certainly did not fit this team last year. He is 2 years older than he was, basically when he came on board. So that's going to slow him down. And when you're talking about a lot of wing back type play last year, that's a lot to ask out of an outside back. But he held down the fort well in the first year as a D3 player. I think we would have liked a little more from him. And, we found Boehner, and I think Boehner did a great job for us. So I think the main thing I would say is, and I see a lot of people talking on Facebook now, and I've seen a lot of people on Twitter talking about, he's a traitor or, he's dead to us or whatever. And he's just a guy trying to earn a living right now, guys. I mean, he wore the orange and blue. He's an original FCC player. We let him go. He went off and he found another job. Some of us have taken jobs we haven't liked in the past, and I guess that's hopefully he feels a little anxiety about purple as well. But regardless, I wish him luck. They've got an 18-man roster right now online. He's one of 5 defenders. A lot of them are coming back from last year, so I don't think we're going to see a ton of play from him. But I think he'll certainly be a depth player who might be able to earn some time.
Yeah, I mean, look, the coaching change I think really affected McMahon. He was a Harks guy, and we saw it in year one. He played a ton of minutes, and then when Harks was gone, the playing time for Pat diminished greatly. And then when you bring in someone like Matt Boehner, who's younger, who has more pace, and is willing to get forward at that right back position, you could see why they decided to go elsewhere. So I don't wish any ill will towards Pat McMahon. He wanted to go where he thought he was going to play. It's a short move. It's not like he's got to go far.
Now he has to defend against Jimmy McLaughlin. So
yeah, exactly.
Bring it on.
So we wish Pat nothing but the best unless he's playing against FC Cincinnati. I think that's fair, right, guys? Yeah.
No, he's still on Louisville. I'd wish him lots of failures, but I hope I hope that he does well enough that he gets a job at, say, Reno or something next year.
Okay. Well, we know how Boston feels about that team down south. All right, fair enough. Moving on, as we begin to wrap up here, we had a lot that we wanted to discuss. We'll hold off on that, mainly because it is a long off season, and we will have plenty of time to discuss these items. But there was the USL meetings last week, and shocking, FC Cincinnati took home a lot of awards, mainly ticket related. The ticketing staff, we've got to give it up for the ticketing staff. We can give them a clap, right? I mean, they brought home some hardware last week at the USL meetings. Jeff Smith and company. I mean, you guys crush it, and you're fantastic. Keep up the great work down there.
Everybody gives us a lot of crap about our attendance bragging and everything. And to be fair, we probably way overdo it, but it's exciting to us and we like it. But these guys, we think about this. We've had 0 turnover in our ticket office from the top to the bottom. And one of the number one complaints I hear in the league is that people's ticket reps are changing and they're unsatisfied with this or that. The FC Cincinnati ticket office has been rock solid, and really they deserve those awards, not us fans. I mean, those guys have worked their butts off, and they deserve all the credit they can get.
Yeah, absolutely. There wasn't really any kind of official news regarding the 2018 season that came out from the winter meetings. I know there's been a lot of discussion lately about Division 3, which I'm sure that'll come up as the off season progresses. I know there's been talk in the years past about moving to 3 divisions, Eastern, Central, and Western Conference for USL. That really wasn't discussed a whole lot, so at least publicly. They may have discussed it behind closed doors down at the winter meetings, but nothing really publicly was announced or released regarding conversations about that. We know Rochester is going to be taking a hiatus, and that was kind of a big shock. I mean, this is a team that's, a fixture, has been a fixture in USL over the past few years. And
Crew of the USL, right?
Yeah, I mean, at one point they were they won the U.S. Open Cup. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. This is a team that
won.
Yeah, that's surprising. We thought that was going to be a market that would thrive, and they're just coming on hard times. So, no Rochester here in 2018 for FC Cincinnati, which I think is good. I think in the 4 times we've played them, I think we've only beaten them once. They kind of have our number, so that's a good thing for FC Cincinnati. So.
Well, their coach went to Pittsburgh, so he might still have our number. We'll have to get over that still.
Well, Pittsburgh also doesn't have Corey Herzog anymore, and I know that is. I know Ben, who's on our show tonight, really, really, really wanted him to wear orange and blue. Instead, he signed with St. Louis. It was announced today. Ben, are you disappointed?
I mean, I'm disappointed that he's not in orange and blue. Again, my opinion, not really shined upon. I mean, with the signing of Heineman, we don't really need a guy like Corey, but I think he's a fantastic player. Again, he's a D2 player. I like the fans of St. Louis. I think he's going to get some nice support there. I will still track him and see how well he's doing. As long as he doesn't score against us, I'm fine with that. But I think he's a good player. He's a great pickup for St. Louis, and I think those fans deserve a quality team with some quality players out there. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he was not out there long. I mean, he left. He tweeted he was gone, and then a couple days later, he's with St. Louis. So I'm happy for him, and then I hope he scores 100 goals and none against us.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Ben. We did get this question on YouTube, and I thought it was interesting. We can spend the last few minutes of our show discussing this. This is from PJ. He wants to know, do you guys think Dayton should get a USL team?
Ooh.
With the current ownership or with a brand new group of guys who can do it?
I think what's in play, right, is not Satterfield. He sold the majority of the team to another owner.
You're talking about the Dynamo.
The current Dynamo. Yeah. And they are in play for a D2 kind of. I think that whole situation depends on the NISA, NASL, USL situation.
Well, let's just say FC Cincinnati does get into MLS. Would you consider Dayton for a USL market? I mean, that way you could have a nearby market that could support if you needed to send a guy down to get some minutes. Bill, you're kind of shaking your head there.
Nah, I think Dayton's close enough. They just kind of roll into our market. I don't see them needing to have their own team there. I would see, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get added for it, but I would see Columbus being a possibility for our USL market.
What about Lexington? I've always thought
I think
that was
Lexington would be my number 2 choice, maybe even my number 1 choice. And Boston feeding right into your pure hatred of Louisville. Lexington is an awesome choice for that because they hate Louisville as much as we do. So, right. So why not have them for our USL team?
You know what's funny is I was watching on the big MLS presentation day. Everyone's using that MLS to Cincy hashtag, blowing it up on Twitter all day and all morning and evening. And I go to the Twitter map and I'm watching who's lighting it up. And there are some people in Lexington flashing that hashtag. None from Louisville, but there was a good amount coming from Lexington.
Yeah, I would say Lexington is a good market for USL. Columbus as well. I think Dayton might be tough because, again, you're hoping that FC Cincinnati can draw them down. And I know Jeff Birding, I mean, he's made no bones about it. He has talked about how the region has become one, and it would be tough to really support 2 professional soccer teams in the same city. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, PJ, but we'll see. But one thing that we do know is that soccer is blowing up in the state of Ohio. For some reason, just not in Columbus. Hey, yo. All right. I think it's time we get mixed up here on the podcast. We'll start with the final thoughts from Boston Brazil.
Just wanted to thank everyone out there in the community that has just kept this offseason alive. I mean, this has been one of the most exciting off seasons I can remember. Not just the MLS expansion, but every like you have Connor. Shout out to you. I think you're on Facebook right now, making about 100 different GIFs, whatever you want to call it, over the last week plus. It's been exciting. I mean, we have somebody on Reddit making an advent calendar post every single day of all the big moments in our 2-year history. That's been a blast to just log on every day and read what big thing from the past I may or may not remember. And this community has been so much fun to interact with. I love logging on Twitter every day, Reddit every day, talking to all of you. We've had a blast, and it's just going to keep the ball rolling, regardless of MLS or not. This community is still here. So,
am I seeing correctly that Connor made an animated? I don't know if it's GIF or GIF either. My wife was a graphic designer, and she always yells at me when I say it incorrectly. But did he make one for Cincinnati Soccer Talk for being live? Did I see that correctly?
Did he? I haven't seen it. That's awesome if he did.
Oh, I was leaning on Boston there, and I struck out. Okay, all right.
Sorry.
Good stuff this week, Boston. And again, it was great hanging out with you over the weekend. I kind of wish we had spent just a little bit more time at the craps table. We've got to get you some more Ritalin so you can stay in one spot longer because you were all over the place. But no, I'm kidding.
Oh, you should see me in Vegas. Come to Vegas with me, Subs.
Oh,
I'm going in January.
I would love to go. I'll have to ask my wife that. No, it was good hanging out with you this weekend, man. And I'm sure we'll talk before then, but Merry Christmas.
Connor says yes on the gift, by the way.
Oh, thank you, Connor. Appreciate it. I love it. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Bill Wolf, your final thoughts as we begin to wrap up episode 95.
Well, let's see. What could I talk about? No. Basically, I would say at this point, we skipped over one of the topics I kind of wanted to get into, and I'm not going to get into it a whole lot, but our roster is sitting at about 19 players right now, so we would typically expect to kind of add maybe 5 more players to get ourselves to 24. One's probably a goalkeeper, so there's probably 4 more signings out there, kind of at least expected. Just looking at what we've done, we've added in some experience in the back. We've added in some experience in the front. Feels like maybe it's time to start looking in the mid range a little bit, and hopefully we start to get some big signings coming. And I think again, I'm gonna go 100% positive here. When we get into the MLS, we probably have some ideas and some people, but I would imagine that the big names we haven't even heard at this point are waiting on an MLS franchise officially to fall into our laps. So that's going to open some doors for us. So I'm excited. I can't wait. I'm ready for us to get in the MLS. I'm ready for us to get that 2019 nod for Nippert Stadium for a year early, and some exciting players to come. So.
Yeah, I agree.
It's all happening.
It is.
It's Christmas early.
That's right. Once we get that nod, when we get that nod, we're gonna have some names coming thick and fast. Some big names that are gonna want to be here in the tri-state. So I agree with you 100%. And I know I'm sorry we skipped over your segment.
It's fine.
But it just means we have something else to talk about next week. So. There's that. But no, appreciate you being with us. Sorry we missed you this weekend at the party. That just means next year we'll have to do it up big.
Yeah, I can't do, drinking and gambling till 1 a.m. It's just I'm at that age where it just doesn't happen for me. You young guys, you do it. Next time we'll avoid SantaCon. I'll catch a drink and a little pizza with you, and then you guys go out and just paint the town red.
And I got to be honest, I grew up in Cincinnati, but living where I live now, I don't get downtown very often, and so as it is, I don't really know where things are. And as I'm driving downtown, plans are changing. I'm trying to figure out where the heck I'm supposed to park my car. In the meantime, we got Boston telling we're going to this place, and then we've got Rob Pierce saying no, we're going to go here, and I was super stressed out, all the while trying to dodge, what felt like 50,000 Santas walking around town. It was bizarre, and I'll just leave it at that. But no, it was a good time this week, and we missed you, Bill. We'll just, again, like I said, we'll do it big next year. But we also missed Ben, who, and let's be fair, Ben had to work, so he had a legitimate excuse. Not that you didn't, Bill, but we missed you.
I didn't have to work.
We did miss you this past weekend, Ben. We hope you sold some mattresses. But what are your final thoughts as we begin to wrap up episode 95?
Final thoughts. Again, I'm bummed I missed out. Unfortunately, those mattresses needs to be sold until 10 p.m. at night. It makes perfect sense to me. It's one of those things where I've been watching everything that's been done and all the work that's been put in over the past the whole off season and how much information was coming in about the stadium and city council and the bid and are we going to get in, are we not going to get in, and it just feels like all of that work is done, and I finally feel I don't know, the relief that it feels like the thing that we thought when we first saw that awful commercial that said we were getting our team here, and it feels like it's all coming together, and there's finally that euphoric feeling of, this is going to happen, and we're going to have our team, and we're going to get our shiny new stadium, and it's going to be built, in the city of Cincinnati, and it just feels like a dream come true, and I'm really happy that I was here from the start. I saw the team get started, and from where we are now, and just Cincy Soccer Talk in general, it's kind of, in the season of giving. We had to say thank you to the owners of the club and the team and everything that they've done, and just knowing that we're where we are, and I'm just happy. I guess everybody be happy. We're finally at the point we can just smile, and this whole off season is just going to lead to bigger and better things. And no matter what happens, and even if a team that didn't deserve it won the USL Championship last year, we can put that all behind us and move forward and be what we thought we were going to be when we first saw this team come together. And it's just something to be happy about and excited about.
Well said, Ben. I agree with you 100%. And I'm glad you mentioned the spirit of giving, because I completely glossed over this week our supporters. Usually in the middle of the show, I give a big shout out to our supporters. And this week I failed to do so, but I'm glad you mentioned it because it reminded me, which means now I have an opportunity to make up for my gaffe. So I've got to give it up, a shout out and thanks to Tim Bronsel with the King's Hammer for their support of Cincinnati Soccer Talk, Matt Adamczyk, of course, Mama Subs, Brian Malone. We've got to give it up for Jamie Smed, Mike Hudson, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery. Let's see who else here. We've got to give it up for Jesse Gill as well for his support. Mike Bowman. The support you've been giving us. These are folks who contribute $20 or more every month, and we cannot thank you enough for your support of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. So, again, if you want to support the show, just like Teresa Everidge did wearing the captain's armband, you can do so over at cincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. That is a good way to wrap things up here on episode 95 of the podcast. Again, make sure you check us out on iTunes, cincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/iTunes. You can rate and review the show. That's one spot where if you don't want to contribute and support us financially, you can absolutely do so by leaving us a review on iTunes. We appreciate the feedback. You can also email us feedback at cincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Our thanks to Pat Brennan from the Cincy Enquirer for joining us this week. And again, my thanks to Ben Knapp, Boston Brazil, and Bill Wolf. I'm Subs, reminding you to watch your tackles, and we will see you all next week.